Gary the Snail is technically the rightful king of Bikini Bottom, and there's a secret government agency that's been tracking royal bloodlines for centuries. And somehow, this was all revealed in one season 4 episode that nobody talks about. Yeah, we need to talk about Rule of Dumb. Welcome back to SpongeBob Diaries. Today we're diving into an episode that aired in 2007 and promptly got memory hold because everyone was too busy laughing at Patrick being a tyrant to notice that this episode is basically the Rosetta Stone of Bikini Bottom world building. And here's the thing that's driving me insane. This isn't some vague lore drop. This episode straight up shows us official government documents, reveals the names of ancient rulers, exposes a functioning royal bureaucracy, and, oh yeah, casually drops that Gary the Snail is technically the rightful king of the entire city. So, let's talk about why Rule of Dumb explains literally everything. The episode opens with Patrick hiding in SpongeBob's house because he thinks the librarian is coming for his overdue books.
I have to get rid of these books!
Why?
I'll show you why!
Relatable king behavior. But it's not a librarian. It's a sharply dressed starfish in a full suit and tie.
That starfish that lives under this rock, would you?
Huh? No, I don't know any. Oh, there's alleged starfish. Patrick wouldn't know any overdue library books.
Who announces he's from the Royal Ministry. And I'm sorry, the what? This isn't some joke organization. This is an official bureaucrat with documentation, protocols, and a briefcase. He pulls out a genealogical scroll. Not a scroll that Patrick drew with crayons, an official historical document, and explains that Patrick is descended from royalty going back centuries. The Royal Ministry exists. It has records. It tracks bloodlines. It enforces heredity succession. This is a functioning monarchical bureaucracy that's been operating in Bikini Bottom this whole time, and apparently nobody thought this was worth mentioning in, I don't know, the entire rest of the series? But here's the part that should genuinely disturb you. So Patrick gets crowned, because yes.
Oh, what is it?
They have an actual crown ready to go, and immediately starts abusing his power. He steals people's stuff, turns his rock into a castle, and tries to build a Ferris wheel by moving Squidward's house without permission. Standard dictator behavior. But here's what's fascinating. The citizens just go along with it. SpongeBob shows them a treaty, an actual legal document that says Patrick is king. Therefore, he can take whatever he wants. And everyone complies. Mr. Krabs, the most money-obsessed crab in television history, tries to accommodate Patrick because kings have money. The legal framework for monarchy is baked into Bikini Bottom society. They don't have a revolution. They don't call the police. They don't appeal to the mayor or whoever we thought was in charge. They accept that Patrick, by virtue of his bloodline, has total legal authority over them. Which means Bikini Bottom isn't a democracy. It never was. But here's where my brain broke. Now, let's talk about that family tree, because this is where it gets insane. The Royal Ministry starfish unrolls this scroll and traces Patrick's lineage back to King Amoeba and Queen Mildew. These are the founding monarchs of Bikini Bottom, and he explicitly says this goes back centuries and mentions a few inbred generations. Centuries! That means Bikini Bottom's government predates Mr. Krabs, who we know was born in the late 1940s. It predates the Krusty Krab. It probably predates the nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll that supposedly created the town in the first place. Which means either the radiation theory is wrong or the monarchy survived the nuclear apocalypse. Think about that. While we've been watching SpongeBob flip burgers for 25 years, there's been a shadow government of royal administrators tracking bloodlines, maintaining records, and waiting for the day they'd need to crown the next legitimate heir. And the craziest part? Patrick's parents, Herb and Margie Starr, are on that family tree. They're documented royalty. They just forgot. They never mentioned it. Not once. But here's where the episode goes from weird world building to this changes everything. At the end, Patrick looks in a mirror and sees himself transforming into a literal monster. Great visual metaphor for corruption, very subtle, and realizes he's become awful. So he goes back to the royal ministry and returns the crown. The bureaucrat checks the scroll again, wipes away a coffee stain on the other side of the family tree, and discovers something. Patrick was never the rightful king. Gary is. Gary the snail, SpongeBob's pet.
Gary, you're royalty! Mom?
Is the legitimate heir to the throne of Bikini Bottom. Let me repeat that, because I need you to understand how bonkers this is. The family tree reveals that Gary's father is Sluggo, who is Herb Starr's older brother, which makes Patrick and Gary first cousins. And because Sluggo is the older brother, Gary, not Patrick, is next in line for the crown. This one detail recontextualizes like 15 different episodes. Remember Dumped, where Patrick steals Gary and Gary actually seems to prefer Patrick?
Motorboat.
That's just a snail's way of saying he likes you.
They're cousins. They have a familial bond we never knew about. Remember every time SpongeBob treats Gary like a pet and Gary gives him that disappointed look? That's not a cat. I mean snail that's annoyed. That's a royal heir being treated like a common animal. And remember how Gary is consistently shown to be the smartest character in the show? The most competent? The one who always knows what's going on? Yeah, that's because he's literally born to rule. And this is where it gets legitimately creepy. If Bikini Bottom has a royal ministry that operates independently of the mayor, the police, and even King Neptune, who's established as an actual king in other episodes, then we need to talk about what kind of government this place actually has. Because here's what we know from the broader series. Bikini Bottom has a mayor. It has a president, mentioned in Good Neighbors.
Our president sure knows how to live. The Good Neighbor Lodge to order. Patrick.
It has King Neptune ruling the ocean. And now we know it also has a hereditary monarchy with its own bureaucracy. So what the hell is going on? Is Bikini Bottom a constitutional monarchy where the mayor handles day-to-day operations? Is it a city-state within King Neptune's kingdom? Is the royal ministry a ceremonial holdover from ancient times that technically still has power but nobody uses? Or, and here's the terrifying option, is the royal ministry the real government, operating behind the scenes while everyone thinks the mayor's in charge? Let's connect this to other episodes, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Dunces and Dragons takes place in medieval Bikini Bottom. And we see King Krabs ruling as a monarch.
I am the feared ruler of this kingdom and will be addressed as such.
Sorry.
That episode's canonically a time travel story, which means Bikini Bottom has always been a monarchy. The royal system we see in Rule of Dumb isn't new, it's ancient. Neptune's spatula shows King Neptune ruling the ocean with absolute authority. But if Patrick's family has a legitimate claim to rule Bikini Bottom, that means Neptune's authority might not extend to individual cities. They have their own royal lines. Best Frenemies shows corporate chains like Kelpshake invading Bikini Bottom with zero resistance, suggesting the government, whatever it is, has basically no business regulations. Because why would a secret monarchy care about commerce? And don't even get me started on selling out, where a corporate raider buys up every small business in town. If there's a functioning government, why isn't it stopping monopolies? Unless the royal ministry doesn't care. Because its concern isn't economic policy, it's maintaining the bloodline. Here's what really gets me. Patrick had zero idea he was royalty. His parents forgot. The entire Star family forgot. Which means the royal ministry has been operating in complete secrecy, maintaining records and tracking bloodlines without ever informing the actual royal family. That's not governance, that's surveillance. Who are these bureaucrats? What's their agenda? Why crown Patrick at this specific time? The episode never explains. The royal ministry starfish just shows up, drops this bomb, and then disappears back to whatever shadowy government building he came from. And once Patrick proves himself unworthy, they just move on to Gary. No fanfare, no public announcement, just a quiet transfer of power witnessed by SpongeBob and Patrick. It's almost like the royal ministry doesn't want the public to know who's really in charge. So here's my theory, and this is where it all comes together. Bikini Bottom is a constitutional monarchy where the royal bloodline technically has absolute power, but the royal ministry has deliberately kept that fact secret for generations. The mayor, the police, the Krusty Krab, the chum bucket, all of it exists in a civilian layer that thinks it's running things. But underneath, there's this ancient bureaucracy tracking bloodlines, maintaining records, and waiting. And the second they decide it's time to reinstate active rule, they show up at Patrick's Rock with a crown. Why wait until season 4?
Well, so much for their company.
What changed? Were they testing to see if the modern citizens would accept a monarch? Was Patrick specifically chosen because he's easily manipulated? And when that failed, why put Gary, a snail who can't even speak, on the throne? Unless Gary can speak. And we've just never heard him because he's been hiding his abilities this whole time, which would make him the perfect king, always watching, always listening, never revealing his hand. Look, Rule of Dumb was meant to be a silly episode about Patrick being a jerk. I get that. The writers probably didn't intend to accidentally expose a centuries-old shadow government, but they did. And now we have to live with the knowledge that Gary the Snail is the rightful king of Bikini Bottom, and there's a royal ministry pulling strings in the shadows. So, yeah, that's the one episode that explains everything about Bikini Bottom. It's been hiding in plain sight since 2007, and I, for one, welcome our future snail overlord. If you enjoyed having your childhood ruined today, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got more SpongeBob deep dives coming that'll completely change how you watch the show. Drop a comment with your own theories about the royal ministry, or tell me if you caught any other clues that I missed. Long live the king!